Welcome to the Blue 52 show. Today we're doing a little mock draft. This is my 700th mock draft this week, probably. I spend a lot of free time doing these. I think it's, one of the most exciting parts of the season, getting to talk about, review the film on all of these young athletes. I am doing this post-Senior Bowl and Pro Bowl and all of that. Well, I guess the Pro Bowl doesn't really matter. It is post-Pro Bowl, but that doesn't play into effect at all. It's just going to be round one, and I should explain a little bit of how I'm doing this. So a lot of the times people are either doing a what they would do mock draft or what they think will happen. I have no idea what's going to actually happen. Since I don't know what's going to happen, I find it to be kind of stupid for me to try to guess. So I think it'll be best if I kind of play in between those two things and keep it realistic and what's actually very well could happen according to me, and also a little bit about what I would do. I used to exclusively just do like what I would do for every team, and it always looked drastically different from everyone else's. So not a lot of rules here. I'm kind of just winging it in terms of if it's what I would do versus what I think is going to happen. Let's get into it. Just doing round one. This one to me is kind of a lock as well. There's been a lot of debate and discussion about what exactly is going to happen with, the Bears. Are they going to keep Justin Fields? Or are they going to trade him away? Ideally, in my brain, I'm not going to put this into this one. I might take it into consideration for the Falcons later, but in my brain, the best thing that could happen for the Bears is they trade Justin Fields to another team, the Atlanta Falcons. I think the value on him could be maybe a third and a fourth. They might get a second or something. I'm not going to include this into this trade, but I'll probably keep that in mind when I get to the Falcons at 8 here. I think Caleb Williams, he is what we think he is for the most part. There's a lot of concerns I have about his character. I don't want to say a lot, but there's definitely there's a lot that I'm questioning and doesn't make me happy to see for the number 1 overall pick. I do think if he gets picked by the Bears at number 1, he's going to stay with them. I think it would be ridiculous to say, I'm not going to the Bears because they suck. So what, are you going to go to Washington? Are they better? Are you going to go to the Patriots? It's all a terrible situation. No matter how hard he tries, he's not going to go to one of these top teams or whatever. He's the first pick for a reason. No more discussion needed on that. It's Caleb Williams. I'll also probably be getting an actual draft board kind of ranking these players on how I think they are ordered just by how good they are. I don't think Caleb Williams is number 1. To clarify my stance on him a little bit, I don't think this is the best player we're going to see play football in all of eternity. I do think he's really good, though. I think he does a lot of things that you'd like to see from a number 1 overall pick in terms of play extension. His upside is crazy high, but he's also starting with, a good floor, and he's not someone that you need to spend a crazy amount of time developing. It's just about kind of getting the guys and weapons around him, getting a good coaching staff that knows what they're doing, and I think he'll be fine. Talking, to my dad about this, he's not the biggest fan of Caleb Williams and thinks he's going to burn out within a few years, which I don't know how realistic that is, but you never know. That happened with Johnny Manziel, but if I was watching football around the time Johnny Manziel was playing, well, I was really young. If I knew what I was talking about, I would have guessed that Johnny Manziel wasn't going to work out. And it doesn't even have anything to do with, him being an alcoholic. It's just he wasn't a good pro player. And I don't think Caleb Williams is in that category. Next, I think this, everyone's kind of talking and saying things like, pick 3 or pick 4 or whatever is where the draft actually starts. I kind of think that the same way, at least with these first 2 picks. These are 2 pretty obvious quarterback selection here. I do think Drake May is quarterback 2 of the class overall. a lot of people down on him because he's from North Carolina. That's a terrible take. I just hate that opinion that a quarterback is bad because they're going to be bad because they're from a certain school. And, looking at a guy like CJ Stroud, just absolutely proving that point wrong this last year, because a lot of hate has been going to Ohio State quarterbacks for a pretty long time now. It doesn't matter, especially now with like all the transfer portal and NIL stuff in college. It's difficult to look at a team from, whenever the last North Carolina quarterback or whoever was drafted and make a comparison to today. I mean, we're seeing more and more teams in college being kind of good out of nowhere, having different players than they normally would. Drake May, I'm a huge fan of. I don't think he's just a sit in the pocket duck or anything. Some people kind of have that idea about him. He has just as much play extension as anyone else. Not like Jaden Daniels, not necessarily Caleb Williams, but just talking about in general, this isn't someone that's lacking a play extension ability at all. That's not a weak part in his game. So with that being said, I think he's a pretty obvious number 2. It looks like Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator, along with Dan Quinn as the head coach. I'm not incredibly excited about that. Ever since Cliff Kingsbury has gone to Washington, there's been a lot of talk that, they might be trading up to number 1 to get Caleb Williams. That's something I could see. I could see that happening. I could see the Bears saying, like, you know what, we want one of these 2 quarterbacks. We can trade out of 1, just go to 2. We can take Drake May or whatever. That'll work with us. And if Caleb Williams is serious about not signing with the Bears, then they would get out of the gamble of that happening. So Drake May, number 2. Another one where I've debated it quite a bit. And for a while, I was taking Jaden Daniels with the Patriots here at number 3. Jaden Daniels is, the number 3 quarterback. I do think he's, a top 8 or so player in this class for sure, just overall. My big thing, and this is something I've had on my mind for a while now, is how many times are we going to watch teams take a quarterback with a top 3 pick while their team is in a horrible situation, their coaching staff is terrible, they don't know what they're doing at all, and they use their top pick to get a quarterback, a 21-year-old, and tell them, hey, you're the face of the franchise now. We need you to be really good and make this team a Super Bowl contender. Okay, bye. It doesn't seem to work all that often. I can't remember the last time a quarterback was drafted to a team in a terrible situation and that quarterback ended up being okay. I mean, looking at like Trevor Lawrence, he was drafted into a terrible situation or whatever. They made a lot of corrections after the first year to make things work for him and that team. And even now they had a disappointing year or whatever, but I don't think anyone's saying that was a bad pick. They shouldn't be, at least. Anyways, the point I'm getting to with this ramble is I don't like the fact that this Patriots team is horrible. New coaching staff. I like the Gerard Mayo, like him being the coach and everything, but he's still unproven as a head coach, and I think he's more of a defensive guy anyway, and I don't see anyone on the offensive side of things that's really going to be helping out a guy like Jaden Daniels, who's going to need some extra support, tender love and care. He's going to need a better situation around him. I could see, like, if Caleb Williams was able to go to the Patriots, I think it would be worth it then. But Jaden Daniels is someone that you're really going to want to sit for a little while. In my opinion, I'm looking at, like the Patriots and a few other teams here that I think really should be in rebuild scenarios, and, the Raiders I might kind of mention a little bit later. But to me, for the Patriots, it's a pretty simple Marvin Harrison Jr., best receiver in this class. I don't think Malik Neighbors is too far off, and I'll talk about him in just a second, actually. Although he doesn't offer everything you want in terms of his run after catch ability or whatever, his range, his radius for catching footballs is absolutely bananas. He's an incredible athlete. He is pretty fast for the most part. I think his acceleration is really what's good. And very powerful in terms of going up and getting balls and making catches. along the sidelines, he is an outside receiver all day long. He might work in the slot a good amount, but I think, he's an outside guy. I think establishing a connection with the outside instead of just having to keep everything as either a screen or a little dump off is going to help whoever the quarterback is this next year. I'm looking at the Patriots and I'm thinking, take someone that's going to help this team long term. That's pretty guaranteed. And next year we'll talk about making a move on a quarterback or whatever. So, I make this pick and then some people are like, well, do you believe in Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones? No, but I also don't believe in any quarterback in this situation. They have no one to throw the ball to. They don't have a set coaching staff of any kind. They could really surprise this year, take a quarterback, and the whole scheme and offense and everything is just put together. But there's a lot of missing pieces here. And the last thing I want to do is stick Jaden Daniels in a situation where he doesn't have a good offensive line, doesn't have any receivers, doesn't have anyone to tell him how to make plays or anything like that at all. And his career just kind of gets washed. So to me, Marvin Harrison Jr. all day here. And like I said, I'm going to mention Malik Neighbors because I'm taking him at 4 with the Cardinals. Now, with Jaden Daniels being here, we're going to talk about a trade up by some team pretty soon here, or maybe he'll just stay there. I think I said no trades on this, so I think I lied. We're doing no trades here, by the way. I'll just stick that out there. Malik Neighbors is one of the most explosive receivers in this class. I'm going to make a video about the Cardinals soon, actually, because I think if they get a guy like Malik Neighbors here, they handle the offseason well, they draft well for the rest of the draft, I think we're looking at a completely different Cardinals team next year, honestly. I still believe in Kyler Murray, giving him a playmaker like Malik Neighbors who can make plays all over the field, just up and down everywhere you want to go. He's also, I think because, Kyler isn't going to be throwing it inside over the middle a lot. It's not something he typically likes to do. I think he's going to be used more of an outside role, Malik Neighbors is, while at the Cardinals, but I don't think that, changes anything about him as a player. I think he's going to make it work no matter where he is. And although it is a bummer that you don't get Marvin Harrison, I think you're happy with Malik Neighbors. A lot of people have said it, and I think it's true too. Marvin Harrison Jr. would have been, the best receiver in a lot of classes, and Malik Neighbors would have been as well in a lot of different draft classes. Last year's one of them. He would have easily been the number one receiver last year. And off the top of my head, over the last couple years, who's the last guy that was, Jamar Chase, I guess, maybe. So that is the pick there. And then number 5 here. Good amount of options. We've got Brock Bowers. Something no one's really talking about, in my opinion, is Dallas Turner, Leatu Latu, getting an edge rusher. I'm looking at guys like Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on the Cardinals who are old. Contracts are coming up. What's the plan there? This defensive line already sucks. That's all you had was those two, was Bosa and Khalil Mack. I think they're going to need to be building on this soon. I'm not in the camp of them taking a receiver. I think they could definitely use some depth for sure. And I understand that contracts are a thing and it's not just about what players you have. I'm not totally happy with this receiving core, but looking at last year with them taking Quentin Johnson, I liked that pick. I thought, I didn't think he was necessarily the best receiver out of that class, but I was looking at that thinking he is a really good athlete and he's got a lot of great measurables in terms of just his size and his overall length, his arms and everything, how fast and athletic he is. I still think it can work out with Quentin Johnston, and I'm not over him. I think that was more coaching issues last year, so I'm going to bet that they can get that fixed. I'm going to hope that the Chargers can get that fixed, and Harbaugh can step in there and fix that up a little bit. But I see the concerns. I see people saying to take a receiver, although I'm not quite as high on Romo Dunes as some other people are, but I understand the tight end getting rid of Gerald Everett this offseason. Maybe they re-sign him. I'm not sure. So I get getting like Brock Bowers here at tight end, and I really do think he's a special player. And looking at a lot of other people's mock drafts, I do think he's undervalued. I know he's a tight end, but this is like one of the most like tight end dominated area of football that we've ever seen. Like, look at how many important playmakers are stepping up and making big plays and becoming huge parts of teams. I think, the Chiefs' offense has been built around Travis Kelce. George Kittle's fantastic on the 49ers. The list of amazing tight ends goes on and on. I think the league is really learning how to use these guys and what kind of guys work in today's league. And I do think Brock Bowers is that guy. And as I'm looking at it, I'm really thinking like that might be the pick. Historically, I've done edge a decent amount. After careful consideration, I think another thing I'll say is, because I did say no trades on this draft, this would be a pretty decent trade back spot if someone else wanted it, especially because Jaden Daniels is here. But with no trades, I honestly think Dallas Turner might be the best fit. I mean, he's a really good fit for the team in general, especially because we're looking at a team like the Chargers that play a little bit more 4-3, use those linebackers as pass rushers. I think that's Dallas Turner's role. He has the athleticism and ability to drop back into coverage every now and then. He can play the run well, and he will likely be, as long as he has the guidance of a man like Harbaugh, their new head coach, to help develop him. I think he's going to become a very special edge rusher in the league. So that's a big need for the Chargers, I think, is D-line and pass rush and pressure and all that. Honestly, if there was, a defensive tackle worth taking at 5 or something, they could do that. Or, like I mentioned earlier, trading back. And in a 2-round mock, there's definitely a good chance of, me taking defensive tackle with a Chargers second pick. But anyways, on to the Giants. They get lucky enough for Jaden Daniels to fall to them. I think it's a good fit. I think it makes enough sense. You really want to bring some more receivers and O-line help. I don't know if the issue with the Giants is that their offensive line doesn't have any talent on it. I think it might be more of a coaching thing, and I know they've been dealing with a lot of injuries and stuff, but looking at, left tackle to center to right tackle, those are all young guys that are very talented and athletic and should be able to get it done. Evan Neal, he's really bummed me out. I thought he was going to be a lot better than that. And again, it's kind of one of those situations where I feel almost convinced that it's the coaching on that more than anything. So that's what I believe. I don't think they need to go O-line super high, the Giants. I think they need to do a better job of, developing and coaching the guys that they have. I do think they could use some more weapons. They could use a few more pass catchers. And again, like in a 2-round mock, they'd probably take someone as well. But that's another area where I'm like, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, they just drafted Jalen Hyatt, Darren Waller at tight end. I think this offensive core is better than they showed. I think it really takes the coaching to fix that. So for my personal opinion, I think most people would make this pick right here, getting Jaden Daniels. I think it is different from the Patriots because I really don't see the weapons that they have on offense in terms of like receivers and stuff, who to throw the football to. And their offensive line was pretty banged up, but they have a lot of missing pieces as well. So I do think there's a little bit of a difference in why I'm more willing to take a quarterback with the Giants. I think the Patriots are quarterback killers. Like, they kind of derailed and destroyed Mac Jones' potential career, and Bailey Zappi just doesn't have any hope. I think that the fact that the Giants don't have a quarterback is why this team is not looking as good. And I think it's a good situation for them too, because they've got a couple other guys there on the team that they can say like, hey, we're going to start Danny DeVito or Tyrod Taylor. I don't know if he's a free agent this year, but start those guys for this year or half or whatever, and then we'll work in Jaden Daniels. I think they can take a step back and take some time with him still, so I have nothing wrong with that pick. And then now comes another one where I feel like I want to make a controversial pick, and that's the Titans. I don't know if controversial is the right idea, but this should just be an automatic Joe Alt spot. But I really like, as I said earlier, I really like Brock Bowers. I'm a really big fan of him. I'm looking at this Titans team thinking, what are the issues that this team has? The offensive line isn't good, especially at tackle. Receivers aren't good. And you wouldn't necessarily point it out as a problem a team has that they don't have a tight end, but I also noticed they don't really have a tight end either. Although that's not the biggest need that they have, one thing I don't think people are recognizing is that when you're looking at a really good playmaker and just overall benefit for your team like Brock Bowers, it doesn't matter if you really need a tackle or a receiver or whatever. I take Brock Bowers here, and honestly, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think he is one of like the 3 best players overall in this class. He's really good at football. I don't see like what this Titans team is gonna build off of. I don't think Treylon Burks is the playmaker to build off of, and definitely not DeAndre Hopkins. Can't really even name anyone else. Who do they have? They have that tight end. I can't remember his name right now. It's kind of long, but just nothing much to build off of, and I'd say get a guy like Brock Bowers who is going to make whatever quarterback you have starting for you a little more worth it. Also, you got to mention the fact that he is a tight end, and he is a good blocker as a tight end. I know that doesn't help a lot in the passing game, but I think that brings another level to your offensive line. I'm going to hope that in free agency they would address tackle that way, because if they take Brock Bowers and don't do anything, they are going to be in trouble. The tackle situation is not good, but I think Brock Bowers is really tough to pass up on. And with the Falcons, like I said, I'm kind of just assuming that they took a quarterback. Regardless, I don't think I'd be taking anyone here. But assuming that they have Justin Fields, I could really see them addressing edge here. I'm a big fan of Leatu Latu. Some people aren't as high on him. I've seen him go anywhere from like a top 5 pick to missing the first round or whatever. And there's a couple reasons why he would miss the first round. He's a little bit older. He has an injury concern because he's, medically retired at one point in his college career. And he's not very athletic. He's probably not going to test well when it's all said and done. But I think the reasons you would want to take Leatu Latu are vastly bigger than the reasons you wouldn't. This is one of the most refined players in this class overall, from any position or whatever. Looking at him, his skill set, what he's able to do in terms of his pass rush moves, he plays the run well. He always has a counter for everything. If you counter his counter, he will counter your counter that was countered. He is perfect at coming up with specific moves and implementing them mid-play. Regardless of his athleticism, I think his motor is very good. He plays with 100% effort, and his first step is crazy well off for him. So, big fan of Leatu Latu. I don't think I need to think too much more about this one. That's who I will take. And then for the Bears, we're in a little bit tougher situation. At this point, I feel like they might feel a little unlucky that Leatu Latu or Dallas Turner aren't here, although they would probably still be willing to take first. You might feel lucky in the fact that you have access to even more tackles and receivers than you thought. So what is it going to be is the main question. And for a team off the top of my head, I don't think they have a second round pick. With the team without a second round pick, it's really important you address edge at some point. But knowing that you just took Caleb Williams, go sign someone in free agency and give Caleb Williams Romo Dunes. That's going to be my pick. Now, tackle could also have been looked at there for sure. I don't think their tackle need is as big as everyone thinks, at least not right now. With Joe Alt being on the board, who's my number one tackle and offensive lineman overall, I definitely understand that. That might be who you consider, but Caleb Williams, Romo Dunes, and DJ Moore. Like, that is a trio if I've heard one. I'm a big fan of that. I'm not incredibly high on Romo Dunes, but I like how he fits in this team and how he would pair with DJ Moore. I think he can do a lot of the things that DJ Moore maybe doesn't perfectly excel at. Maybe being a little bit better of a jump ball guy. But on to the Jets. This one's so easy. I can't believe it's that easy. It's Joe Alt. If Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu weren't there, it would be just as easy, honestly. I've seen people talking about taking receiver, taking whatever else. It's been tackle since day one. There's every year that it's draft season or whatever, I feel like there's always a team or two that kind of has a position that I'm like locked in and will not look at anything else. This year, it's the Jets taking a tackle. It's also the Bengals taking a tackle. Based off of where they fall on the board, usually there's like one of these few guys here. Amarius Mims, Troy Fautanu, Tyler Guyton, J.C. Latham, sometimes Talai Seifuaga. So I've had that happen there a lot, but that's not the point. Not talking about the Bengals right now. The Jets, huge need of an offensive lineman. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and unfortunately, Mekhi Becton has not been able to stay healthy, and that's been a big factor in their offensive line struggles, as well as Elijah Vera Tucker. I think a lot of people assume that they haven't made any attempts to make this offensive line better. They have. It just hasn't worked out the best that they were hoping. Getting a tackle like Joe Alt, the number one guy at 10, is pretty insane. I don't know if that's going to happen. There's a lot of guys that have passed up on tackles that I've made so far in this mock draft, but Joe Alt, fantastic pick for the Jets. On the Vikings at 11, and as I go through more of the, 11 through 32, I'm going to move it a little bit quicker, but the Vikings at 11, I would ideally think an edge rusher, and I still might take Jared Verse here. That's tough not to. I've also considered Cooper DeJean. I think he's a really good fit on this team. It's a decent trade back spot. And I've also looked at Bo Nix, because honestly, he comps well to Kirk Cousins, and I think they're willing to keep that kind of energy going. What do you do with Kirk Cousins? Let him walk? You definitely can, especially if you take Bo Nix. I don't think they're willing to give the $45 million a year, which I'm pretty sure was the asking price for him. So I don't know, this is real tough. I don't know how I feel without the ability to trade back, because ideally I might trade back here. Without that ability, I'm probably going to end up taking Bo Nix here. Yeah, that just makes too much sense in my opinion. I do think, that might be a little bit higher than you would want Bo Nix ideally. He might be like a 20 to 30 range kind of guy, but quarterback's always treated differently than any other position. It always has been. And when you're a team that's in need of a quarterback and you see the one you want, let's say they really want Bo Nix, the Vikings do, you go get him. I was kind of wrong a second ago when I said if I was able to trade back, I probably would. But regardless, if you are going to pick Bo Nix, make that pick. If that's who you want, you got to just go get him like right now at 11. So though it's 9 spots higher than it ideally would be, it's a quarterback. You need one. Get him when you can. It's the most important position to have. And I honestly like the fit of Bo Nix to Minnesota. I've also liked the fit of Michael Penix, and I've taken him here at 11 before. I just, after really looking over everything, I do think Bo Nix is higher on the draft board, for me at least. I don't need to get into Michael Penix stuff right now, but I'll just leave that. And then on to the Broncos. Tough knowing what we want here. I, kind of gone into this year with a lot of thoughts of if you get another corner alongside Patrick Surtain, you've got one of the better duos or trios or whatever. Again, I can't remember their slot corner's name, but he's young, and I think he was undrafted or something like that. And he played really well for most of the season until he got hurt. So I think their cornerback room is off to a little better situation than some people assume. I don't think that bars them from taking quarterback, especially since all of them are available so far. I'm also looking at edge. Getting a guy like Jared Verse would be awesome. Olufashanu would be great. I don't know why that's not even mentioned. I know their offensive line is solid already, but still, he's really good, and I think some of those contracts are coming up. A receiver has also been talked about because I don't know what's going to happen with Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, if I'm being honest. And then Jerzon Newton. There are a lot of picks that could be made here. And when that happens, I like to just take the best player available. Usually in drafts, especially if it's a what would I do or whatever, I'm taking just the better guy and trying to figure it out from there. And looking at this, based off fit, need, and best player, I would take Jared Verse for the Broncos, as opposed to probably would have been one of those corners, but yeah. Right. And then for the Las Vegas Raiders, I mentioned them earlier with the words rebuild, and the reason I say that is I think even if they have the ability to get like one of the quarterback, I mean, if they could get Caleb Williams or even Drake May, I guess it's a different story. But if we're talking about deciding between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, if they wanted to trade up, I'm not a fan of that. I think this year you've got, a little bit of culture established with Antonio Pierce, and I'm so glad they just hired him back as their head coach. I think he earned it. With a little bit of culture being built, this offense, this whole team in general has a lot of holes. The defense barely has anything. I really like Nate Hobbs. I think that could potentially be a corner for the long-term future. I don't know if he's the number one guy. As of right now, he is, but I don't know if he's, the next Patrick Surtain, but I'm a fan of him, so I don't think their cornerback room is as bad as everyone thinks. Malcolm Kuntz with Max Crosby is a good edge group, so I like that. What I don't like is their offensive line, especially if we're saying, hey, we're not going to take a quarterback this year, we're going to save that for next year, a couple years or whatever. If you're not going to do that, you need to start building on that now. So Olufashanu's an easy pick all day long for me. And usually when I am talking about a team like the Raiders, who I'm saying should kind of be in a rebuild here, I don't think they should tank next year, but I don't think they should go get their quarterback right now. I think they're going to have another, 6 to 8 win team. You're going to have probably about this pick or better next year, and that's fine. I know that might not be fine for the managers and coaching staff and all that. They could lose their job. But if I'm just talking about me, what's best for this team from my point of view, it's Olufashanu. Whenever I'm talking about teams that are rebuilding at this level that the Raiders are, it's fix the trenches first. Offensive line, then probably defensive line in that order. And then same thing, I'm going to go receivers to corners. That's kind of the order of what I'm going to address. Getting a guy like Olufashanu, and then next year taking, I don't know, like whoever the top quarterback prospect is that you can get, it's going to make life a lot easier, especially if you can help out in free agency, build around the offensive line a little bit more. You still have Colton Miller. I think the Raiders could be looking up from now on, as long as they handle this draft right, and as long as they fix a couple things that I personally think are issues, like tackle, O-line, Another one I would definitely have considered was Jerzon Newton. They don't really have anything on the interior. And like I said, they could have taken one of these corners. Anyways, moving on to the Saints at 14. I like Talaise Fuaga here. I've also kind of liked them taking a corner. I think their DBs are coming up in age. You do have some young guys that are working out pretty well, but you do have some guys that are getting a little bit older, and I don't know, what's Marshawn Lattimore's long-term future with the Saints. So with that being said, I'm still going to skip it for now and look to either edge or tackle. And it's pretty simply Talaise Fuaga for me. I don't like Derek Carr at all. I'm not a fan, and I see a world where they go quarterback at some point in this draft. It's just not the world that I'm in right now. Unfortunately, not a fan of Derek Carr, but I don't think it's worth getting J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix in here. They're probably just going to sit on the bench and not really become a starter at any point. If you take them in the first round, they'll try him out a lot more, but I think kind of similar to the Raiders, just avoid that for another year. They're in a better situation where they at least have Derek Carr, and build this team up a little bit more, this offensive line, where they've missed with some picks like Trevor Penning. I think they've missed so far, and Cesar Ruiz has not been going very well. Onto the Colts. All the corners are available, and that's definitely one of your biggest needs. I would want to, check out the offensive side of things a little bit, because I'm thinking about the quarterback you drafted last year, Anthony Richardson. He's coming back. What can we put around him as help? Unfortunately, I don't think any needs that they have and any of the players that are available make much sense. So we're gonna go corner here, and honestly, I'm thinking about taking Quinion Mitchell here. I think it's a good fit. I've been a big fan of Quinion Mitchell even before the Senior Bowl, where everyone started recognizing him as being a really good corner and probably one of the best in this class. I think there's a good chance he could be the corner one now. He proved, the thing that he didn't have proven, how he handles pressing and press coverage in general. He proved that at the Senior Bowl, and that's kind of one of the big things that people are looking at and saying, like, okay, this is someone like we can look to as the number one guy. Because I don't think it's really been set on who the number one corner in this class is. I've seen a lot of people recently talking about Terrion Arnold being the number one guy now. I definitely see him in the debate. I've thought about Nate Wiggins a lot. I'm a big fan of Nate Wiggins. I've kind of dropped on Kool-Aid McKinstry a decent amount, which I think everyone has. I think he was kind of the corner CB1 of this class for a while, and I still think he's, a top 4 corner in this class or whatever, that this amount before the drop-off, But regardless, not the biggest on him. Quinion Mitchell is an athletic freak as well. And I don't even know if people realize that. I don't know if people realize that, how well he is going to test and what kind of athlete he is. We all know how much the Colts like taking really good athletes. So, great fit there. Seahawks at 16. Taking into consideration that Mike Macdonald is the head coach of this team, I really want to shoot defense here. And there's a couple guys I definitely think would help out with that, but I also can't help but to look at Troy Fautanu. I don't think they need to go tackle here, and he's in this tackle group, but he's going to be a really good interior guy at the next level. That's kind of more how he profiles. He's a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller arms, and he's a little bit thicker, which kind of usually just makes yourself a guard. But thinking about Mike Macdonald, it's too much fun. I'm going to go Johnny Newton to the Seahawks here. How he gets used in that system is going to be fantastic. I'm probably going to make a video at some point talking about Mike Macdonald and what I expect out of the Seahawks defense this season. Or maybe I'll just wait till I see it, and then we can talk about what's actually happening. So that is great. And then Jacksonville. This is a receiver to me. Which one? I don't know exactly. We could go tackle here too. I know it's saying corner. I don't mind that, but I think I really want to get a playmaker on this offense, like Brian Thomas, and I think that's going to be good enough just for me to take it. Brian Thomas, fantastic deep threat in this class. I think he has some versatility to him as well, but that's where he's really going to shine. It's just on those deep balls as a deep threat and providing a little bit, hopefully better connection for Trevor Lawrence than what he's had. I'm not super big on, Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram's fine, but this offense doesn't have that much firepower on it at all. And I don't think they have a number one guy. I don't know if Brian Thomas is going to be a number one, like, alpha X receiver or anything like that, but I know he's going to be really good in the NFL. He has a lot of the makings to be, and I assume this is going to be a good matchup with him and Trevor. We're probably going to see a good amount of deep balls. Like I said, I'm locked in here with the Bengals taking a tackle, and we'll make it J.C. Latham because I'm a big fan of him. It's been a need for so long now, and they just really haven't addressed it. So I'm going to just go ahead and address it for him. J.C. Latham, I'm a huge fan of. I think he's a good fit here. Big and strong. He's ginormous. Probably one of the strongest guys in this class. I think he's not just, he's not just coming off of as a guy that's a developmental guy that, you're going to have to work really hard on. He has a really good baseline. He played a lot of snaps at Alabama, a lot of games, and I think he's going to be someone that's going to come into this Bengal team. On this Bengal team, he's going to start week 1, and he's going to do fine. What side he plays on, I know he's on the right side, and I'm trying to think of the right tackles. I know it's definitely not Orlando Brown because he refuses to do that. But regardless, I think this is going to keep Joe Burrow upright and maybe on the field a little bit more, considering you didn't have him this year because he got hurt because he doesn't have an offensive line. And for the Rams at 19, got all of these corners here. And that's exactly what we're going to take. Again, it just comes down to which one. And I think getting a guy like Cooper DeJean could fit in here. Terran Arnold. They could use both safeties, inside corners, and outside corners. I like what Cooper DeJean's going to bring to this defense. Or at least what I think he will and can. So we'll go with Cooper DeJean here. I like that fit a lot. He's a really good playmaker, really good athlete overall, just in general. Cooper DeJean, one of those guys that's kind of like gets talked about a lot because, he's white and a corner, but he's a serious athlete. Like, everyone's serious when they're talking about Cooper DeJean as being one of the better prospects in this class. Turn on the tape and just watch his explosivity and how he is instinctually. I'm saying a lot of woolly words, but just how he plays and the aggressiveness and demeanor he plays with. I'm a huge fan of it. So Cooper DeJean will go 19 to the Rams. And then the Steelers, Marius Mims, I've had a lot here. A corner, could definitely go corner again. I like an interior guy as well. One thing I don't think anyone should really mention is like defensive tackle or edge, which I could totally see being taken. TJ Watt doesn't have a lot of time left on his contract. Alex Highsmith, I think, is going to take over as their head guy there after whenever he finishes up. I don't know if they'll re-sign TJ, we'll see. But in terms of the interior, you have Keanu Benton, and he's all right. But Hayward's getting there in age, and he didn't really play the season anyway, so I think there could definitely be a talk about a Byron Murphy going here or something. With that being said, though, do I think that's the better player? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Amarius Mims is worse than Byron Murphy necessarily, but dang. I think it would probably be in their benefit to go offense as well, since that's been the big struggle point for them a lot. And the fact that you're not getting a quarterback, like I didn't want to take a quarterback here, with this pick. It makes even more sense to go ahead and get yourself an offensive lineman, especially one like Amarius Mims, who I think on the Steelers team could have a very bright future as long as, the coaching does well there in terms of developing him and making him a better player overall. So love that fit there, and he gets to be by his friend Broderick Jones, who's on the other side. And then Miami, I've borderline kind of locked this one in as well for an offensive lineman. I think Troy Fautanu is a great pick, so we'll take him. I don't think they really need to look for a tackle exactly. I think it's an offensive lineman in general. So we'll go there. I do think they could have gone like corner or something as well, but why? Those are both needs, and Troy Fautanu is a perfectly fine player. Here, a lot of tackles I've seen in mock drafts going to the Eagles, and I don't mind it at all. I've been going corner more often than not. And there's so many good. There's 3 left here that are like top notch. So we'll take Terry and Arnold here for sure. A lot of issues with this team, and it's, one of them starting with the secondary. I think a lot of the issues the Eagles had this year didn't have anything to do with the roster at all, though. So this is kind of a luxury pick here, but they got a lot of other stuff they need to get figured out. That doesn't have anything to do with Terry and Arnold. So still a good fit, good pick there as well. I like that. The Texans, I'm borderline a Texans fan now after this season. Love CJ Stroud. Huge fan of him. Just everything they have going on. And I think this pick is going to be really important. I think last year you got CJ and Will Anderson, and they obviously worked out really well. And, they traded their first-round pick of this year. They traded this pick last year. Luckily, they got to keep this one that they had from the Browns. I think this is going to be a really big pick because I think from here on out, you are going to see this is an extraordinarily good draft class, I think, especially for receivers and corners and edges and the stuff that they need. I think they're going to be kind of on this end of drafts from now on this 26 to 32 range. They also might not see guys like Keon Coleman or A.D. Mitchell at this point again. And looking at this cornerback room, dang, dude, there's so many picks you could go here. Now, my issue with Chop Robinson is, I believe in D'Amico Ryans as a coach and as a developer, but how much do I believe that Chop Robinson's really going to work out? I do. And I do think it's going to be based on the situation quite a bit, but there's something I don't like about him going there. I don't know what it is. So to me, it could be corner or it could be receiver here. You could look at offensive line too. But I think the more fun thing is going with like a Keon Coleman or something. And then I think the probably better pick is Nate Wiggins. I think we're going to do Nate Wiggins here. Looking at the cornerback room, it is aged out a little bit, and there are a lot of guys that are kind of on their way out, so it makes enough sense to go corner there. Tyler Guyton makes a ton of sense to the Dallas Cowboys. The problem I see with that is I see Tyler Guyton as a developmental piece. I think the Cowboys are trying to win like right now. And I think what's going to help with that is getting someone, screw it, let's do A.D. Mitchell, actually. Getting another receiver in this room, so it's not just the CeeDee Lamb show. Although I'm sure no one in Dallas has a problem with the CeeDee Lamb show. You'd like to make it a better show overall for the whole team. And I think getting a receiver that can help out with that, like right now, it's going to be A.D. Mitchell, and I think that's going to be a better fit for them in the long run. Or I guess my point was that it's going to be a better fit for them in the short run. But, if you end up with a Super Bowl, which I don't think they will, but if you do, and it's on the back of A.D. Mitchell, we're all going to be saying that I'm right. Green Bay. I really like going tackle here, and I really like going corner here, and seeing Kool-Aid McKinstry still on the board makes it difficult not to go corner. So that's what we'll do. Big fan of Kool-Aid still. He fell on the board a little bit, and I think he fell down this draft even a little bit. I was a little bit late on these corners for taking them, but I made picks that I was fine with, so it's fine with them falling. The Buccaneers, I never really know what to do with. They kind of need a little bit of everything. It's just like, what is Chop Robinson going to do on this team? I just don't know. I think get a receiver in here like Keon Coleman, because you got 2 big contracts coming up with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and it's going to be real bad if you don't have a receiver at all. Was it A.T. Perry? Is that who it is? Yeah, I think he's proven that he's someone that's going to be on that team, be pretty good for them for a little while. I like A.T. Perry. It might not be A.T. Perry. I don't know. It's a rookie, but I'm a fan of him. Regardless, you have those contracts coming up. I don't know what the re-sign process is going to look like for them, but you can definitely fit another receiver, especially a receiver like Keon Coleman, who is very explosive. He's huge and fast and strong, great at jumping up and catching footballs. I think he's going to be used well just as a playmaker, too. I think he brings a little bit of what you see from Mike Evans and Chris Godwin together. Obviously, I don't think he's as good as either of them are necessarily going to be. He could, but that's not, my first thought. I think he's a good fit on this team, though. And again, I don't really know what to do with the Buccaneers because they kind of have a need everywhere, but also they were a playoff team, so it's like there's no glaring, huge need. There's kind of just everything needs some work and TLC. And then for the Cardinals, it is tough that Kool-Aid McKinstry's gone. It would have been great if you could have had him here, but he is not. So I do look to edge. I'm not a fan of them taking Chop Robinson here, and I'm not that big on Braylon Trice. I think he's going to be fine, but is that someone you really need to shoot for? I don't know. So instead of that, I could totally see someone like Byron Murphy going here. Or another offensive lineman like Tyler Guyton. I don't think this falls the exact way they wanted to. I think ideally a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry would hopefully be here, or, one of those top corners. But I'm going to take Byron Murphy here. Another team where it's just take your pick at which one you want to take, dude. This whole team sucks. I mean, I like Kyler Murray and some of what they're building, and like I said, I like this team a lot and project, that they're going to be doing well in the future. But at this point, other than quarterback, what are you set on? Safety is probably Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, or that's a pretty solid safety duo. But other than that, this whole team's kind of washed. I don't know if washed is the word, but the whole team isn't very good. And then for the Bills, I don't mind a corner or safety here or something like that. That's all good and well. Could go D-line. I think the best bang for your buck, though, is going to be Troy Franklin. Really could use another receiver on this team. Stephon Diggs has been disappointing, especially the last half of the year. And this team needs a lot more fireworks and explosion, because so far the only firework and explosion is Josh Allen. I didn't mind their pick last year, Dalton Kincaid, but clearly, that wasn't his big year. He didn't have the same year Sam Laporta did. But adding a guy like Troy Franklin with all that speed to this team is going to be a big deal for them, and it's going to be someone that Josh Allen can get the ball out to in a big moment where it won't be dropped, hopefully. And with his speed, that ball is probably going to be taken to the house. Big fan of Troy Franklin. Let's move on to the Lions at 29. Lions just had a huge year. So what do we give them? We could bring some development for them. I know that they're going to want to be looking at the future here. to win a Super Bowl pretty soon. But I think you do have something really special and nice right now where you could take a pick like Chop Robinson and say, like, we know he's not going to help us out this year, really, but hopefully in the next couple years we can get him there. The other pick that I think makes a lot of sense that I really like is going Jackson Powers Johnson or like Graham Barton or something. Someone more interior offensive line. They've had a lot of issues. People didn't even realize this because they just known the Lions as having a really good offensive line. But one of the issues that they've had this year is no guards, and that's because of some injuries, but also I think they could use to put some extra, few more guys in there. So I don't mind like a Graham Barton or Jackson Powers Johnson in here. They don't need a center, but if you believe a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson can play right or left guard or whatever, I would make that pick here totally. Also looking at like corner, again, I don't know if the corners fell exactly how you'd want to. I don't think it's that big of a reach if you go like Ennis Rakestraw or Kamari Lassiter, but I do think they could potentially do better, and I'm kind of poking around for that. I mean, I don't mind Devondre Sweat here to help in the run game. I actually really like that pick. Hold up. Or Chop. I'm honestly not so crazy high on Chop Robinson. We'll take Chop here. I still think he's a first round guy, and I do still see him having a pretty good NFL career. It's just it's gonna take the work by the coaching staff to get him there. He's so raw. He's probably the rawest player in this class that's also seen as high as he is. He's still kind of locked in people's minds as a first round pick. But geez, he's just a guy out there. He's an insanely athletic guy out there, but it doesn't seem like he knows enough about the sport to he doesn't know enough about the sport yet to be successful. Just in terms of his play, I'm not trying to say that I know more than him or anything like that. Just, watching him play, he's missing a lot. So I hope that if he goes somewhere, first of all, I hope wherever he goes is a good spot, a good landing spot for him, or else it'll kind of just be a waste. It would actually be really cool if he did go to the Ravens, even though I don't necessarily think they need or would make that pick. It would be good if they took him, because I think that's a team that I've kind of known as being a team that can develop edge rushers really well, specifically. Right. Speaking of Baltimore, we'll move on to them, and they've kind of had corner as their number one need for a while, in my opinion. But I do like the idea, again, of going like Devondre Sweat. I wouldn't mind taking Jackson Powers Johnson to play inside at guard. We obviously don't need him to play center. Tyler Guyton here, that's a tough one. I could totally see them going that direction. Looking at like Ronnie Stanley and just their total offensive tackle situation, they could use more help there than what's being represented and showed, honestly. And Stanley was kind of disappointing this year, in big moments mainly. I see Tyler Guyton working out decently on this team, and I really want to build the offense up around Lamar, but I really like Devondre Sweat. We'll go Tyler Guyton here. That makes more than enough sense. Right, and then for the Kansas City Chiefs, this is another position, like I mentioned earlier, I'm locked in on them taking a receiver. I don't think the board fell exactly how I would have wanted it to, ideally. Dang, who do you want? I could see Ladd McConkey going here. I don't think it's that big of a reach. I just kind of wondering, like, I don't know if that's the fit of player they want. I think they might want a guy like Xavier Legette. I just have concerns about him. You know what? We're going to take Xavier Legette. I like it enough. I think they really need a receiver, and they don't have anyone like that on the team. all of the receivers they have are kind of smaller, and we got proven at the Senior Bowl that Xavier Leggett smaller than we thought, 6'1" instead of 6'3", but I still think he's a big time playmaker. He's a really good athlete. He's really fast, great at high pointing balls, making big catches down the field. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, out of anyone, is going to find his role in the NFL. And to round the draft off, we'll go with Jordan Morgan, maybe Kingsley Suamaitai. We'll do Kingsley Suamaitai to the 49ers. Almost one of those teams where I'm kind of locked in on them taking offensive line, but that's more just about like what else do they need. I don't think they have any other glaring needs except maybe like corner or something like that. There might be some contract situations that I don't have on my mind to really think of, but here is a draft going from 1 down to 32. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the mock draft down in the comments. Let me know what changes you would make, what you would do differently, anything you thought made me sound like a stupid idiot head for saying. Just let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you so much. Bye.